I inadvertently ended up coming out for a group ride this morning. Bumped into some of the guys from the club, completely unintentionally, but was fantastic for the first hour or so, and they smashed me up a couple of hills, which was lovely. However, I left them at the bottom of one of the bigger hills so I could just do it at my own pace, because ultimately I've got my own agenda at the moment. So this week's video, going to have a look at my training, going to have a look at my weight loss, going to have a look at my mindset, but I'll also have a look at why I've decided to stick to using Training Peaks and go back to using Training Peaks over any other platform. Let's crack on. So I'm coming to the end of an hour on the bike on Zwift. I've had a couple of rest days because I haven't felt particularly brilliant. It's the 16th of February and I've had a runny nose, a bit of sniffles, if you like. And it doesn't really feel like a cold because I don't feel ill. It might be an allergy, but I don't really get allergies, so I don't know what they feel like. Anyway, I've had a couple of rest days. And I thought what I'll do is I'll come and sit on Zwift for an hour at 175 watts. Now, if you watch this video, you'll know that 175 watts is the target wattage that Dr. Robinson arrived at for my fat max point. Now, the reason why I'm making this short little video is, despite all the dropouts on my heart rate monitor as per usual, the interesting thing about this is that every time I've looked up at my heart rate, it's been on 121 BPM, which again, if you watch this video, you'll know is exactly the target heart rate. So it's just nice to know sometimes, isn't it, that, you know, Dr. Robinson said 175 watts or 121 BPM. And actually, for me to ride at 175 watts for an hour is 121 BPM. Bonkers. So the maths adds up. It's always nice to have that reassurance that what you're doing is right on point.
Do you want to know what else is cool? This is 60 grams of butter. And because of the results that we got here, if you look at my my target wattage here of 175 watts is my fat max point, and we come across the fat usage grams per minute, you'll see that I'm burning 0.99 grams of fat per minute at 175 watts. And I did an hour at 175 watts on 121 BPM today, which means that that is about how much fat I burn. Now, if that isn't a massive incentive to just put in another 10 minutes or another 15, 20 minutes or whatever, I don't know what is. That is very cool. Do you know what's not very cool? Storm Derek is not very cool, because that means I can't commute tomorrow, which means another long ride I'm going to have to do on Zwift to get my hours in. And I don't really fancy riding my bike in 70, 80 mile an hour winds. So that isn't cool.
If the predictions are right, this benign and beautiful scene is about to face a raw, fearsome assault from nature.
Storm Eunice hits the UK on Friday, and a red warning has been issued, and through the Bristol Channel in particular, that's where the very strongest winds are most likely, and that's why a red warning has been
Storm
issued
Eunice
here.
is about the wind, but combined with the morning high tide in the Severn Estuary, and it becomes a potentially devastating tidal surge.
We thought Storm Dudley was going to be bad. This is Eunice, I think. Storm Eunice. Because we're on the west coast, we've been hit by like 70, 80, 90 mile an hour winds. And all the schools have been shut and the uni's shut down, so I'm back on Zoom doing lectures for today. Not ideal, but at least I've got a turbo and a treadmill.
It's the 20th of February today, Sunday, 2 days after Storm Eunice hit. As you can see, still inside. I haven't ridden outside at all this week. I haven't run outside this week. This will be the 4th ride this week, all of which have been on Zwift. Any of you that follow the channel will know that I'm not a massive fan of Zwift, although actually I think the environment's helping, that I've got a bit more room in here and I'm kind of enjoying the specificity of what I'm doing now. That said, it would have been nice to get out and get a few more hours in, but we have to remember, of course, that when you're on Zwift, you're pedaling the whole time. There's no freewheeling, no stopping at junctions. So I think the going sort of agreement is that it's half to 2/3 of a normal ride, which would make some sense. But anyway, it's been a solid week this week so far. 4 rides, like I say, 3 of which have been very easy at this fat max point, 175 watts. Although my FTP according to Zwift has gone up, and that's according to a ride I did yesterday with the club. First time I've been out with Clevedon, local club, out. It's on Zwift. We went out for a club ride yesterday. First one I've done since I was training for the Grand Tour last year. It was brilliant to get on Discord and have a chinwag, catch up with everybody. Literally had to catch up because Zwift had to update. But as a result of that, I had to work really hard, or I decided to actually push myself a little bit yesterday in the ride, and pushed myself a little bit harder than I actually thought I had, and it pushed my FTP up a little bit. But I will do a ramp test soon to kind of confirm that. However, riding is feeling, and fitness in general is feeling pretty solid. Once I'd done the club ride yesterday for about 45 minutes, hopped on the treadmill and did a progression run for about 25 minutes, and it really knocked the stuffing out of me getting into that higher end. I'm not doing much in that really high end sort of VO2 max, top end of VO2 max, into areas of anaerobic stuff at the moment because I'm so focused on the low end, but it is important to get elements of that in there, and I felt good. So this 3rd week effectively of February, everything feels pretty solid, and I'm starting to feel really fit, starting to feel really strong. Now, one thing that did happen this week, which is why I'm making this short little interlude in the video, is because I hit 104.6 kilos this week. And that's a significant weight because it shows that I've lost 10 kilos, or 10.2 kilos in actual fact, in the last 7 weeks. Which might strike you as a lot. It averages about 3 pounds a week, 1.4 kilos per week. But I've done my research. I'm going to make a video about this in more specificity soon, actually, about the research that I've done into this and what's healthy and maintainable. But take it from me, I've not gone wandering into this and done a load of binging. It's all been about getting the right numbers, as you well know from me going to the lab. And that's part and parcel of me making sure that I've got this right. It will slow down, but 10 kilos, not an insignificant amount. There is one downside to this though. Talking of clubs and riding with clubs, I bought this jersey back in the last year, and I haven't been out on the road with it yet, and as you can see, it's already horribly flappy. It's supposed to be an aero jersey. This is not aero, and the pocket's hanging right down my back. So gonna have to see if I can get a smaller jersey, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But so far, week 3 of February, it is all looking good, and I am feeling bloody fantastic right now.
So my eldest son Zach, who's 12, has recently got into football. He's joined the local team, trains with them, he absolutely loves it. Football's not really my thing at all, to be honest with you. But a friend of mine who was the major sponsor of the Grand Tour last summer very kindly offered to take us to go and see Bristol Rovers play against Mansfield Town. Now, I just assumed that he was a season ticket holder and got us tickets. Turns out he's actually one of the club sponsors and had an executive box. I've never really had an experience like this going to see a football match. I used to go and see a couple of matches with my dad, go and see Tottenham Hotspur play at White Hart Lane as was. But this was a whole new experience. We had dinner there before the match and a double glazed executive box and everything. And anyway, the kids loved it. It was a great experience, and it is sporting related, and I thought I'd just drop this into the video just to remember what a fantastic experience we had at the Memorial Ground. So what has gone well over February has been my steady increase in bike distance. Over the last 4 weeks I've done 178k, then 204k. Then we had the storm week, as you can see, that was all done on the turbo. It was 103 kilometers. And then this last week of February, I've done 208k. It's been a really good mix of endurance, distance, nice and easy work. And then obviously the top end doing kind of sweet spot
and more under and over work. So that's going really well. As of this morning, I'm 103 kilos, and that's down from 114 kilos at the very start of January. So essentially I've lost 11.8 kilos, or in old money, 1 stone and 12 pounds. So just shy of 2 stone. But in February, the weight drop hasn't been quite as big as it was in January, and that's good because I want it to decrease ever so slightly less rapidly. So I've lost 5.4 kilos in February, which is around about 11.9 pounds. The whole point of this is ultimately it's making me feel motivated, it's driving me on, I'm eating well, and I'm fueling myself and feeling fit and happy and fast actually, comparatively for my 103 kilos. But ultimately I'm feeling better about myself, I'm feeling brighter, and just a lot more motivated to keep going and keep a close eye on how I'm going about this and just maximize what I can without going too far over and redlining too much. And we'll get into that in just a minute. What's not quite so hot in February is my running and my swimming. Now, obviously I am doing triathlons this year. In fact, my first proper event is a triathlon and I want to do well at it. So it's not like last year where my sole focus was on cycling, but my mindset is, and as Dr. Robinson told me, is that for weight loss, the best thing I could possibly do is cycling, because I can ride at the low intensity that I need to ride at, and I can ride for a very, very long time. So what I'm doing at the minute is about 2 runs a week. One shortish run for me, but it's very, very low intensity, so around about 30 to 40 minutes. And then I'm also doing a brick session every single week. So after I do one of my sweet spot sessions on the turbo, I'll then hop onto my treadmill and I will do like 40-30s, which is kind of above your threshold and then below your threshold, a bit like you do on the bike, or a progression run where every 500 meters or a kilometer I'll increase the treadmill speed. So I am getting a bit of intensity on the run and I am getting a bit of endurance on the run also, but I need to increase those a little bit or add in a third run, a short third run. Same with the swim. The swim's going quite well. Ironically, out of the 3 sports, it's probably the one that I'm strongest at. However, in February, it's really taken a nosedive. A couple of reasons for that. One is that I've been coaching on a Monday, which is when I've normally been swimming, so I've lost out on a master's session. And the other thing is that the weather has kind of played a bit of havoc with everything. And also, it's bloody expensive swimming. I'm going to probably do a bit of a video comparing sort of monthly outgoings on different sports to do with triathlon. So I'm going to have a look at that. But it is expensive, and this last month running up to the end of February, I just haven't actually been able to afford to go swimming. But I will need to keep that up. Now, it's kind of, I think it's fairly common knowledge, but in my opinion, you need kind of 2 swims a week to maintain where you're at and 3 swims a week to kind of make some progress. Obviously, that's depending on what you do in those sessions and volume, but those are the 2 things I need to focus on, is being a bit more consistent with my swimming and my running. So how am I going to do that? Well, that brings me on to the last part of this video. I was going to do something far more in depth on this, and in fact I'm actually going to make a longer video, because as I delved into this I realised that it's actually quite a big topic. But I normally use Garmin Connect and Strava. The last couple of years I've used Garmin Connect and Strava. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with both of those. Garmin Connect ultimately is an interface for your hardware, like your watches and your bike computers, and Strava is a social media platform for sharing your rides, your runs and your swims with other people. Now, years ago, 2014, I started using Training Peaks, and it's a lot more expensive for the premium version than Strava, and Garmin Connect is free. So I stopped using Training Peaks some time back, because ultimately it is quite pricey. Now, I get a discount with British Triathlon, I get 40% off, which makes it far more manageable, but if you don't get that discount, it's actually pretty pricey. So why have I gone back to using Training Peaks? Well, it comes down to a couple of things ultimately, which I'm going to do a summary of now, but I'm going to go into greater detail in a video later on this week. So the first reason that I've gone back to Training Peaks is their performance management chart, or their PMC for short. Now, what this does is ultimately what we're trying to find out as athletes is, am I getting fitter? And it basically is a simple chart that tells you your progress through using loads that you're doing in your sessions and the fatigue that you've got and the recovery that you have, and it will show you on a line and will give you a number, something called CTL. Now, the CTL number is something that you want to steadily climb. Now, there is a similar chart in Strava called Fitness and Freshness, But there are some major flaws with that. One of the major flaws is the fact that historically it will change your sessions when you change your FTP in Strava. So a session that you did 6 months ago that was stressing you out this level, hopefully 6 months later with some good training would stress you out at this level, but it doesn't, because what happens is when you change your FTP and you get fitter, it actually normalizes all of that. So when you look back over your history, the sessions are actually equally as taxing on your system despite the fact you've got fresher. That is no use to you. One of the other reasons why it's not very good for what we want, particularly as triathletes, is it doesn't take into account any stress that you might have from swim sessions. Now, from experience of using my heart rate in swim, it is quite a part of your fitness development, and not having that in this chart skews it massively. So for those two reasons, I really don't think the fitness and freshness chart in Strava is much use. It basically is like a sycophantic friend that tells you that everything you're doing is brilliant. So the PMC chart is excellent for that motivation, seeing where you're getting to, also being able to see the load about how fatigued you are and knowing when to take those rest days. The second thing, which is probably the most important thing, is that in Garmin Connect and in Strava, you can't plan a training week in advance. And what you can do in Training Peaks is that you can put in different sessions, different durations, different training stress scores, or the stress that your body's going to encounter, and it will give you a score at the end of that week of where your CTL or your fitness and your fatigue will be. It's brilliant for helping you plan your training for the week. Now that is another thing that's really important for me at the minute, because I'm trying to maximize from my lab tests everything that I can do. I've got to keep a very close eye on the stress that I'm putting into my body and the recovery that I'm getting. So between the PMC chart and between the fact that I can plan my training sessions, those are the two main reasons why I've gone back to Training Peaks. So what is coming up in March? Well, more of the same, more of the weight loss, more of the training, more of pushing the intensity up and the distance in. However, one of the most significant things of March is going to be the fact that it's my 20th wedding anniversary, and Bex, me and the boys are going to go back to the place where we got married in Monmouth in Wales, and we are going to have a bit of a holiday. Now, I'm going to take the bike, I'm going to go running, I'm going to go trail running. I'm hopefully going to meet up with Monmouth Triathlon Club and do at least one swim session with them, because that's the one thing I really enjoy doing when I'm traveling around, or at least when I was traveling around a lot. But the main focus is going to be on increasing the swim and the run element of what I'm up to at the minute, and keeping that weight management coming down steadily. My hope would be that I'd be around about 98 kilos by the end of March. Now, I don't normally talk about stuff that's not sport related in these videos, but I just wanted to close this video out by just sending my solidarity to the people of the Ukraine. I don't really know what else to add to that other than the fact that it's terrifying and tragic what's taking place over there, and all I can say really is that I genuinely hope that it settles quickly and is resolved as peacefully as possible. Have a great month, enjoy the fact that we're able to get out and train safely and peacefully, and make sure you don't take that for granted. I'll see you soon.